There are more than 200 bosses in Elden Ring, but in order to beat the game, you have to beat 15 main bosses. In this challenge run, I have to beat all 15 main bosses with 15 different weapon classes. According to Wiki, we have 31 weapon classes, excluding all the spells and incantations. Basically, I have to use half of them to beat the game. So what are the rules? Number 1. I'm only allowed to use one weapon class for one main boss. So for example, if I beat Morgott with a katana, I'm not allowed to use katana for the next boss and so on. Number 2. No legendary weapons and unique Ash of War. This also includes weapons with unique Ash of War as well. Number 3. One Ash of War only allowed for one weapon. Pretty self-explanatory. Unless it's a default weapon skill, then I'm allowed to use that Ash of War. Number 4. No dual wielding. I'll have this bingo card on the screen so I can just scratch one of them if I already use them, just to keep track of what I use in this playthrough. To make things worse, I'm not even good at using most weapons, so this is gonna be very interesting. Also, before we start, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you can keep updated with the future challenge runs. So, let's get started. I picked Prisoner as my starting class because this time my build is gonna be all over the place, and Prisoner has pretty decent all-round stats. Not to mention, I have to increase Vigor, Mind and Endurance a lot since I have to use different kind of playstyles. After jumping off the cliff and reach Limgrave right away, the first thing I need to do is getting Torrent and go to Caelid. Grinding some runes on early games is necessary since there will be a lot of stats changes in the future. I got Radagon Swordseal as an early boost stats, and I also bought the Knight Armor sets in Roundtable Hold. I need extra protection since Prisoner doesn't come out with nice drip. I haven't decided which weapon to use against Morgott since I have to save some good weapons for certain bosses. So I think maybe I can beat him with bare hands, basically no weapon at all, just to see how much damage I can deal. Yeah, definitely not possible. As the first boss, Morgott isn't that threatening, and I decided to use light crossbow as my first weapon. It categorized as crossbow's weapon class and is very easy to get. I just have to buy it from the nomadic merchant actually. It's a long-range weapon and I think one of the best weapons to use against Morgott. He's more of a close-range enemy, but he has some range attacks as well. I can shoot for like 2 shots before having to dodge his attacks, and it's quite effective against him. One annoying mechanic about crossbow is you have to click to reload, and it took a couple of milliseconds. But since Morgott isn't aggressive, I can keep my distance as far as possible and still get a shot at him. The fight wasn't that intriguing, but it took a while for sure. The patterns are very simple and it's just a matter of patience. Okay, now let's cross the crossbows from the screen. Morgott is now dead and I can proceed to Godrick. Because Godrick is weak against range attacks, I think it's the right time for me to use sorcery. So I got a Meteorite Staff and Rock Sling from Caelid. It only requires me to reach 18 intelligence to use this spell, and with Meteorite Staff, it can boost Gravity Sorcery by 30%. It's quite powerful for early game. There are a bunch of sorceries and incantations, but to make things more strict, I'm only allowed to use one of them and that's it. So this is the only time I'm gonna use a spell, and I'm not gonna use any spell ever again in this playthrough. I have to level up for a bit to increase my mind, so I can spam the spell a couple more times before drinking flasks. The fight with Godrick is just straight spamming. I don't really have to think much about it. Rock Sling also deals a good amount of poise damage. 3 shots and he's already brick his stance. I keep my distance pretty far since Rock Sling can follow him. Even without Arrow Reach Talisman, the reach is still pretty far. Second phase, nothing different actually. Whenever he breathes fire, I just have to get close to him. Even on close range, Rock Sling is still pretty effective and I finally beat him. First try though. Now let's scratch staff and sorcery. We're going against Red Wolf Dragon, and honestly I'm not sure of what weapon to use. Since it's still early game bosses currently, I have to use some bad weapons. So I went back to Stormveil Castle to get Brick Hammer. I already used this before on my previous challenge run, but I never fully used it as a melee weapon. It requires 21 strength if handled with 2 hands, so it's pretty convenient. Before going to the academy, I met Raya just to progress to Volcano Manor later on, as usual. And I also got the Smithing Stone Bell Bearing from Crystallian boss. This is very important since I'm gonna upgrade a lot of weapons in the future, so I need some material sources. I went back to Roundtable Hall to acquire the Arsenal Charm from Nepheli because I think I might need it if I sacrifice endurance later on. I tried the new Ver's quest by going to Altus Plateau and fight Magnus the Beast's Claw. It's a new NPC by the way. Yeah, and I died a couple times because I suck at PvP. But I completed the quest and get access to Mohgwyn Dynasty for rune farming. So it's time to fight the main boss. I prepared enough to think I can beat the wolf. It's kinda annoying for me to use this weapon since it's slow and the wolf is very agile. I got overwhelmed and died a couple times because I couldn't match his pattern. But I have to take my own advice from my previous video, that I can only land some attacks on him when he does his sword attacks. Other than that, it's just too risky. But it's a little too problematic since Brick Hammer took a decent stamina to attack and I have to dodge right away after I hit him. Sometimes my stamina recovery is just not there. But I still beat him though, after a couple tries. So, Great Hammer is now used. I might need something long for Rennala. I was thinking on how I can tackle Rennala's second phase easily, so I think Lance might do the work. It's a great spear and a good thrusting weapon as well. Only requires 20 strength and 14 dex to use it fully. Along the way I got Golden Vow as well, but I don't think I need it for now and I decided not to use it. Well, since I got the Smithing Stone Bell Bearing, of course I level up my weapon. Even though it's not that significant, but just to be prepared in case it's not enough. I went back to the academy, killed that annoying knight, and finally facing Rennala in her library. Her first phase is alright. I thought using long weapon is really helpful when fighting her, and it's true. Especially to pop her bubble faster than premature ejaculation. The downside with this weapon is its attack speed. It's pretty slow in my opinion. It's a good thrusting weapon, but for chain attacks, it's not the best. Second phase, it's not as easy as I thought. For the first half of her health, I can easily get close to her and hit her 2 times maximum. Because more than that, she's just gonna move away and start being offensive. So I don't know if there is some changes on her, but I realize her summons are not despawning sometimes. Bigger summons like a dragon or a troll can easily despawn if I move away too far, but for the dogs and the Bloodhound Knight are quite relentless sometimes. It's not stopping me to beat her though, but I have to be more defensive this time. So that Great Spear is now scratched. Moving on to Altus Plateau. For the next boss, which is the Draconic Tree Sentinel. I hate this boss, so I have to prepare a bunch of stuffs in order to beat him. I got Anspur Rapier as trusting weapon category. It has 55 Scarlet Rod build, so it's gonna help me a lot. A small upgrade for my armor because apparently this armor has better stats than mine. I also acquired another bell bearing for smithing stone and a dragon crest shield talisman to negate physical damage. So I have a lot in my hand right now. Tree Sentinel is one of the most intimidating boss for me. Not only he can deal a lot of damage, he can also cast some lightnings on his second phase. I can say Anspur Rapier is the right weapon for him. I died multiple times because I didn't get used to his attacks, but I realized on how much damage the Scarlet Rod did on him. I just have to be patient. To be extra careful, I can only land 1 or 2 hits per opening, especially on his second phase. Dodging his lightning is not a problem for me, but sometimes I get greedy and try to attack him more. Thanks to the Dragon Crest Talisman, I can survive his heavy attacks though. Yeah, and Thrusting Sword is gone. Proceeding to face Godfrey. I can stand down for a while since Godfrey is not a big threat, that's why I picked a fist weapon to use against him. At first I was planning to kill Blackguard to get his iron balls, but after talking to him for a while, our bond grew stronger and I even called him my brother, so I don't want to kill him. Instead of that, I decided to buy a fist weapon from Godstock called Castus. Nothing special with this weapon, but I think I can kill Godfrey with this. Also, in Lindell, I didn't know they fixed the jumping platform, so I have to get through everything using traditional way. I put my Arsenal Charm to use and equip Lionel's armor, and I'm ready to fight Godfrey. The golden version of Godfrey is quite easy as long as you keep close to him. That's why I pick fist weapon against him. The problem is I don't get used to using this kind of weapon, and the follow-up attack sometimes results me of getting hit by Godfrey. Other than that, it's a fun battle nonetheless. I beat him first try. So, no more fisting guys, scratch that. Things are getting tougher from now on. Morgott is a huge jump from Godfrey in terms of difficulty, so I have to use one of my best weapons against him. Cross Naginata is my weapon of choice. If you watch my previous challenges, you know it's one of my favorite weapons. It also has bleed proc as well, making it really effective against Morgott. I also got the Wing Sword Talisman, Green Turtle Talisman and Arsenal Charm +1. Most of this combo doesn't really impact me directly, but it helps me to deal more damage against Morgott. And also it will increase my stamina recovery because I have to dodge a lot. Morgott deals a lot of damage, so me picking Lionel's armor is the right decision. So people say to me to always two-handed every weapon if it's not dual-wielded, so I follow their advice this time. I need some time to get used to this weapon because the attack combo is different from using it with one hand. If I use it with one hand, I can use this thrusting attack that is very useful to reach Morgott, so I can maintain my range with him easier. But maybe two-handed can deal more damage? I don't know about this, please let me know in the comments guys. On his first phase, things are going well, even though sometimes I miss a moment to dodge since he has this delayed attack after sliding sideways. I don't mind getting hit once or twice on his first phase because I can tank it. It's really weird for me to say this, but I'm more comfortable to fight him in his second phase now. Even though his window of opening are thin, but I can land some chain attacks if I can dodge them successfully. It's more rewarding in my opinion. But on the downside, it's my only chance to attack him. If I attack him first, I can get killed right away. Sometimes I get greedy at the end, but luckily I can avoid some of his attacks and eventually beat him. Spear is now used, rip my favorite weapon. I played a bit of Volcano Manor quest and continue Burnhal's mission to kill some NPCs. I got this Raging Wolf armor along the way because I always finish the playthrough with either Bull Goat armor or Lionel's armor, so I want to be different sometimes. For the next weapon, I choose God's greatsword to fight Fire Giant. It's one of people's favorite weapon, according to the community, but I can barely use the weapon though. It has high physical damage, so I think it suits Fire Giant well. Funnily enough, even though this weapon is called Greatsword, it categorized as colossal weapon. I got another bell bearing to level up my weapon even further, even though it's somehow tiring to level up weapon every time I got a new one, but for the sake of this playthrough, I'll do it. Fire Giant is slow, so I'm gonna take it as my advantage at first. But I forgot, Greatsword is also slow. The good thing about this weapon is its roll attack is thrusting. At least that type of attack is not slow. But then again, I have to get used with all the moves from Greatsword until I realize it has this Asho 4 called Stem Upward Cut. This is a very good Asho 4 since this not only deals a good amount of physical damage, but it also deals a lot of poise damage as well. On his first phase, it works perfectly. The amount of damage in a short period of time is really amazing. Moving to his second phase. Because this weapon is slow, I usually can only land one attack before he rolls away. But nothing special in particular since I'm more grinding his health slowly. Attacking his crotch is always the safest way. A couple lucky moments when I almost died because he rolls towards me, and after a while, I finally beat him. Throw away colossal weapons and let's continue with the journey. Reaching the late game bosses, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not confident this time. We're against the worst boss in the game, and so I have to prepare some stuffs. Sleep pots are necessary, so I got a bunch of Trina's Lily, and also, because I'm thinking of using Jar Cannon this time, I also got the Arrow Sting Talisman to increase the damage. Now if you're wondering why I use that weapon, it's because it was the only time I can beat them, so I might as well recreate that moment. I use bolt ballistas and bone ballistas for the ammos, because they're easy to get and you can craft them as well. So I get the Jar Cannon from this demi-human boss, and maybe some upgrades are necessary for the Godskin Duo. Okay, you know what? Getting Jar Cannon probably the worst idea ever. I managed to cut half of their health, but that's the best I can do since Jar Cannon has the slowest recovery time in the game, and you get a guaranteed hit by them. I don't know how I beat them back then, but I can't seem to beat them this time. The skinny one can dodge the shot, by the way, so that's another problem. So I have no choice but to summon Burnhal as their punching bag. This is my last batch of sleeping pots, so I have to win this. I don't know what happened to me on my previous videos, but I think those times I'm just lucky enough to beat them. Sometimes getting hit while reloading is a blessing since it will cancel the reloading sin. And I can just move freely after that. Well, that would be great if I have a lot of health and flash, but this time I couldn't take that risk. On the last round, Burnhal got killed, so I have to continue the fight by myself. Luckily for me, I have some sleep pots left, so I can just use them to sleep one of them. Somehow I beat them and I feel relief at the moment. It's kinda crazy. Okay, so jar cannon counted as ballistas, so let's scratch that one. We're fighting against Maliketh and I already has a really good plan. Since Maliketh has a low poise health, I want to make use of that information as much as I can. So I got this dagger called Misericord. It has the highest critical damage in the entire game. I also got the Glintblade Phalanx as an Ash of War from Rogier. This might work the same as Flame of Redmanes because Glintblade Phalanx actually deals a good poise damage as well. After gathering all those stuffs, I went straight away to Maliketh. As I expected, this method works as intended. I can overcome his phase pretty quick since the Glintblade will always hit him no matter what. Now there are a little problem on his second phase. I used the same method as before, but Maliketh has become more aggressive now. Some of his moves allows him to dodge the magic and it requires me to make distance from him to cast it again. Strangely, the blade always hit him whenever he jumps. The fight wasn't that hard, I just have to be patient as usual and still relies on the Ash of War to break his stance. And I eventually beat him. 2 tries, I think. We can scratch the dagger now after all this time. And now let's move on. So, it's Gideon's turns now. Since I'm running out of weapons I can use, I decided to use a halberd, which is the Knight Rider glaive, by killing the Knight Cavalry. I think because Gideon used long-range spells, I need to counter him by having a ranged melee weapon. This is honestly a mistake. For some reason, this really proves that I'm really bad at PvP. Out of all bosses I fought so far, Gideon is by far the longest and most depressing fight I've ever had. I still couldn't get over his attacks and actually struggling with my stamina. So I think it's better to level up a bit and get the Spelldrake Talisman by defeating the Rune Bear, and yet I'm still losing. I put back Lionel's armor and still losing. I even think to cheat by getting another spell like Eternal Darkness, but no, I want to keep this as genuine as I can, so I went back to the arena and fight him like a man. Finally, I beat him. After 3 hours of fighting this piece of shit, the worst fight I've ever had so far. So I'm so glad that it's done. Okay, remove Halberd from the list and let's get this over with. I thought it would be exciting to use X when fighting Godfrey since I want to match my weapon with him. I was thinking on using the Stormhawk X, but apparently that weapon has unique Ash of War, so I have to find something else. After looking at wiki for like 1 minute, I think Twinblade is kinda cool. I traveled to Windmill Village and acquired the Twin Knight Swords. It's basically a regular Twinblade though, it just have like a really long name. No other explanation for this thing actually. Godfrey can be difficult, so I have to prepare something else. I picked Seppuku along the way to add blood affinity to the weapon. Okay, here we go, Godfrey. I think my decision was right. Seppuku really helps me on depleting his health obviously. I still died multiple times because I didn't get used to the weapon, so a couple early fights is just for me to train using Twinblade the right way. Most of my deaths are on his second phase, so basically his first phase wasn't a problem at all. As long as I can get close to him, I can land multiple hits every openings. I think it's better to reach his second phase before the blood effect runs out. I can still cast a Seppuku on certain moment, because without it, the damage is just very insignificant. But on the second phase, things are turning 180 right away. I'm not gonna rely on Seppuku anymore because it's almost no opening for me to recast the skill. At this rate, Godfrey can one-hit me, so I have to be extra defensive. The only time I'm allowed to attack is when I successfully dodge his grab attacks, which is very dangerous. If it's not because of the Dragon Crest Talisman, I'm probably already dead by now. Crazy to think, I still find a window to cast Seppuku though. But it's probably the only moment I was able to do so. Sometimes I get greedy and land a couple hits on him. And yeah, that was a close one, and I beat him fair and square. It can be smoother fight, but I'm still being reckless sometimes. Twinblade done. One last fight, guys. I'm going all out now. So I got Nagakiba after realizing that I messed Yura's quest and killed Shabriri because I rushed this whole playthrough. Katana would be my last choice because it's the weapon I can use mostly. Nagakiba is the longest katana in the game and it has 45 bleed as its passive. But we're not gonna use bleed this time. Instead, I'm gonna use fire by getting Flame of the Red Mane's Ash of War. You guys already know where this is going. I also got the Crimson Wall tier to block the Elden Stars just in case. Well, first fight with Radagon wasn't going well. I realized my fire damage was a bit low, so I think I need to add one last touch by getting the Fire Scorpion Charm. It will help me to increase the fire damage though. I'll make this ones fast, so let's get back to Radagon. So I realize I'm getting better at fighting the final boss. Radagon can be easily killed by the flame, but I don't know if I have to use different weapons. I still died a couple times because of being reckless, but at least I know what to do now. Basically, I only use the flame on Radagon, so I don't have to bring a lot of flash to begin with. If I do this right, I can cut half of his health pretty quick, and the rest is just dodging his holy attacks. And yeah, Radagon is now down. We can proceed now to going with Elden Beast. I have to cast the flame until I ran out of FP to maximize the damage before going full melee on it. I think with this method, I can deal a good damage, especially if I break his stance. Since the Elden Beast used the Elden Stars pretty early, I'm actually a little concerned with the raining stars more. Even if I sprint, I still got hit by a couple of them. Maybe because I'm wearing a heavy armor right now, so it might slow me down a little bit. I don't know about that. But at the end, I won. With that, I can scratch my last weapon types, which is katana. So for real, I use 15 different weapon types against 15 main bosses. This is actually helps me on getting good with certain weapons though. So what do you guys think? As always, guys, please let me know if I can improve my skills in any way, and I hope you enjoy this whole journey with me. If so, make sure to give a like and subscribe because I do a lot of challenges in the future. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a great day. Peace out.